Hey guys, welcome to my short guide on how to play a Fire Mage in Shadowlands. To start things off, I'm going to annoy probably a few people here, but you are going to want to be in the Night Fae Covenant. The shifting power ability is just too good to pass up as a Fire Mage, so you're going to want to be Night Fae, and the soulbind that you're going to want to run is Karain. That is assuming, of course, you've finished the campaign and you're renowned 28 or above. Now, while you're Karain, you're going to want to follow this exact path. Specifically, you're going to want to have Infernal Cascade as your first potency slot, and you're going to want to have Discipline of the Grove as your second potency slot. The others can be flexed here or there to fit whatever you need, but these two are the specific and very important ones: Discipline of the Grove and Infernal Cascade. Now, the reason for that, Infernal Cascade plays very well into our Combustion, which is the majority of our damage. I'll explain that more going forward. And Discipline of the Grove takes our shifting power, which is our Night Fae ability that gives us cooldown reduction as we cast it, and it gives us further cooldown reduction, really allowing us access to a lot of our cooldowns that we need for damage. The next important part to playing a Fire Mage is stat priority. In this order, it's going to go from Intellect, Haste, Versatility, Mastery, and Critical Strike. Now, Critical Strike is very integral to our kit. We need it to upgrade our procs. However, we don't need to build it, as there's a lot of utility in our kit that helps us get those procs, so it's not really needed to build. However, Haste is our most important secondary stat, and that's very important to build, as it helps us get in a lot during our combustion and get more procs using our utility. As far as talent choices go, there's not much that we have as far as choice goes, but those choices are row 40 and row 45. So 40, we really get to choose between Frenetic Speed and Ice Ward. Now, Frenetic Speed I find to be very useful in raiding situations. It gives us movement speed when we're casting Scorch, which we're pretty much casting when we're moving constantly. Or Ice Ward, which gives our Frost Nova a AOE route 2 charges. Now, I find Ice Ward really great in Mythic Plus situations where you have, say, Shades, or we have Necrotic, where the tank needs to move and we need to CC ads. So it's really a matter of what you're going up against. Now, for row 45, it's a little bit more straightforward. Flame Patch is an AOE target that we are 100% going to take if there's an AOE situation. However, Conflagration is a very single target oriented ability that we will be taking in single target fights. As far as legendaries go, there's even less choice, as in we are only going to be taking Fevered Incantation. This is obtained through a world boss, and it complements our reliance on Critical Strike very well by increasing consecutive Critical Strike damage by up to 15%, and it just goes so well with our Combustion, which I'll get to in the next section. Now, this can be applied to head or waist slots. However, we are only going to want to apply this to the headpiece, as the headpiece provides more stats. As far as missives go for our legendary, we're going to want to use haste and versatility missives, as that goes along well with our stat priority. Now, pre-pull is not that complex. As far as pre-pull goes, you want to have your Arcane Intellect in your Blazing Barrier up, and then at about 3 seconds, you're going to want to precast a Pyroblast. This is going to hit just as the tanks pull, but not too early so that you pull aggro. Combusting is by far the most important part of Fire Mage's rotation, and it is the majority of our damage. Being able to combust correctly and without thinking about it is one of the most important things to learn. That being said, there are multiple types of combustion. The first of which I'll go over is the complex combustion. It'll go over some of the more nuanced ideas of combusting and different type of rotation. There is also the simple type of combustion, which if you wish to learn, you can click ahead to the next section where I'll go over that. And then lastly, there is an AOE form of combustion, which will go over what to do in multi-target situations. Now, the key difference between a complex combustion and a simple combustion is keeping your Infernal Cascade conduit active all throughout the combustion. So now that is done by alternating Fire Blasts and Phoenix Flames. As you'll see with the graphic on the screen, you're going to open with a Fireball. About halfway through that fireball, you're going to cast Combustion, and then 2 Fire Blasts before the fireball is done casting. That will give you a Pyroblast charge that you are going to send out at the same time as your fireball, so that they hit the target at the same time. At that point, you'll get another Pyroblast charge, which you're going to send out and then follow up with a Combustion. You'll get your 3rd Pyroblast charge, and then from there, you're going to alternate Phoenix Flames, Pyroblast, Fireblast, Pyroblast, Phoenix Flames, Pyroblast, until you're out of charges. If your haste is high enough, you're going to get 7 Pyroblasts in, as long as you follow that order. Again, you open with a Fireball. About halfway through, you're going to cast Combustion, double Fireblast, send out your Pyroblast at the same time as your Fireball, then send out your 2nd Pyroblast, Fireblast, Pyroblast, Phoenix Flames, Pyroblast, Fireball, Pyroblast, etc., etc., until you're out of charges of both. At that point, you shouldn't have any more charges, but in times where you have extra haste, such as Time Warp, you can fill in with Scorch casts. That is the only way you're going to want to fill in if you don't have any charges of your instant casts. Now, doing a simple combustion rotation does not necessarily mean you'll be doing significantly less than the complex combustion rotation, but you will be doing less. The idea behind combustion is you want to get as many Pyroblasts in as you possibly can. Now, the way that you're going to do this is you're going to pre-cast Fireball, and then about 2/3 of the way through that cast, you're going to cast Combustion, and then spam Phoenix Flames. Now, this will send out Phoenix Flames the second that your Fireball cast goes out. So they will go out simultaneously and hit the target at the same time, giving you an immediate Pyroblast. You're going to send out that Pyroblast and alternate a Fire Blast after every Pyroblast. So that way, as many Fire Blast charges as you have is as many Pyroblasts as you have. Once you run out of Fire Blast charges, you're going to then filter in Phoenix Flame charges. Now, doing all of this and using all your Phoenix Flame charges, all in all, you'll have about 7 Pyroblasts that you get out of this. If you happen to have extra Pyroblasts, or extra time because of a Time Warp or some other haste buff, you can filter in Scorches to continue to get your Heating Up procs and your Hot Streak procs. But that's essentially how you're going to do the simple combustion. Again, precast Fireball, cast Combustion 2/3 of the way through, spam Phoenix Flames, and then alternate Fire Blast with every Pyroblast you send out, and then Phoenix Flames with every Pyroblast that you send out. And that's essentially it. So the next up combustion is the AOE combustion. We're going to do this when there's 3 or more targets, and it's great for stuff like Mythic Plus or the Sun King fight. Because we don't have Pyroblasts giving us the heating up procs, as we do with the other types of combustion, we are going to have to use both our Phoenix Flames and Fire Blast to get a full hot streak. So the way that we're going to open is start with your combustion, and immediately throw a Phoenix Flames, then a Fire Blast, and then a Flame Strike. And you're just going to repeat that: Phoenix Flames, Fire Blast, Flame Strike, Phoenix Flames, Fire Blast, Flame Strike. And now, after you've used all of your charges, you're going to fill the rest of it with Scorch, and weaving in Fire Blast as they come up, and sending out a Flame Strike every time there is one. Some other people, alternatively, like to use their Fire Blast charges. So, Fire Blast, Flame Strike, Fire Blast. You may have to use Phoenix Flames here, and then Flame Strike, and then cast Shifting Power to get some charges back. That is also acceptable, and also does really good AoE. Now, in between combusts, we're going to have to cast our filler. Generally, if the target's above 30% health and it's a single target, we're going to be casting Fireball. Now, the reason why we spam Fireball is because every time that Fireball doesn't crit, it makes the next Fireball have a 10% higher chance of critting. Eventually, we'll get a heating up proc like we do here, which we will use Fire Blast to upgrade into a full-blown hot streak. We can cast Fire Blast midway through our next Fireball, so no need to cancel anything here. Now, what we're going to do with this hot streak is we're going to send out a Pyro Blast at the same time as a Fireball. Now, we could do this by just spamming Fire Blast, and when Fireball ends, they'll send out together. Now the reason why we do this is because when two things hit at the same time and only one crits, WoW gives us a little bit of leeway and still gives us our heating up proc. If we were to do this a different way and say send a Fireball and then a Pyroblast and only one of them crits and they went at different times, there's a chance that we lose our proc. So again, always want to send a Fireball out with a Pyroblast out with a Fireball. This is called fishing for Pyroblasts. I'll show it one more time here. We cast our Fireball. Eventually, we'll get our heating up proc. Then we use Fire Blast and immediately send out our Pyroblast. We'll do it again here. And as you see, it's pretty effective at getting chain crits. And again, I'm not upgrading this any more than I have to. The chains just never end if you get lucky. Sometimes you don't. But again, you always want to send a Pyroblast out with a Fireball if the target is above 30% health. Now when a target is under 30% health, we have a special interaction using Scorch, where we will always crit and we'll even do increased damage by using Scorch. So under 30%, our filler changes from Fireball spam to Scorch spam. The good thing about Scorch is it can be used on the move. So while this target dummy is above 30% health, in a raiding environment or dungeon environment where a target's below 30, you would get crits every single time. You could still upgrade those crits using Fire Blast and then send out a Pyroblast. All of this can be done on the move. Now if we're in a similar situation where we are in between combusts and we need some filler, however, there are multiple targets, that being 2+ if you have Flame Patch, we are going to be hard casting Flame Strike. It feels very counterintuitive, but that is our best DPS situation with multi-target. Now, you can, if you have multiple Fire Blast charges, that being 2, you can use 2 Fire Blast charges on a target to immediately get an instant Flame Strike. So we're just going to really interchange that. So hard cast Flame Strike, 2 Fire Blast charges, quick Flame Strike, and then we can even weave in our Shifting Power Night Fae ability to do a large AoE and even get a couple Fire Blast charges back. Generally, you want to do that when you are missing a couple Fire Blast charges. For Fire Mages, there is a dot that gets applied by doing damage to it, generally speaking. Now, the damage is increased with stuff like Pyroblast. And so if you're doing single target damage and you get a really good Pyroblast chain going, your dot will be hitting for a decent amount. Right here we're seeing about 550 a tick. Now we could spread this dot around by using our Phoenix Flames. It will spread it to anyone who gets hit by Phoenix Flames up to 8 targets. So after getting a Pyroblast chain, you're going to want to use a Phoenix Flame to spread this dot around to all the other enemies in the area. And that is essential. The practice of spreading this is essential and is best done after doing single target damage. However, Flame Strike and just fireballs without Pyroblast also apply this dot. Now in raiding environments, I know that you can't always stay still. So while you're on the move, it's best to be doing something rather than just moving. So if it's a very small move, a good thing to do is to apply your Blazing Barrier. That only takes 1 GCD and it really takes a load off on the healers. However, if you have to move for longer periods of time, Scorch is a great filler. Even if it is above 30% health, Scorch is better than doing nothing. So this is one thing that you're going to want to be doing if you're moving constantly. Now there are a few macros that I think are very helpful as a Fire Mage. The first one here I have is a macro for casting Scorch on your focus target. I think it's very important sometimes to keep a target alive, but under 30% as long as possible. So using that target for Scorches, but sending your Pyroblasts that you get off of them to someone else is always a huge help. So quickly setting focus on them and then using Scorch is a really great way to do that. This one I find to be very helpful. It is a macro for both activating and deactivating Iceblock on the same button. However, if you were to spam this button, it would basically activate and deactivate within a millisecond. So definitely be careful if you're a button spammer. You may not want to use this, but if you're not, this is amazing for quickly activating and deactivating for certain uses. Here's another one that I really like. It's specifically for Night Fae. It is a macro that allows you to have Shimmer, your Blink, and your Night Fae ability that dashes you forward 15 yards on the same button. There's a little bit more nuance to it with, when to press Alt and when not to press Alt, and I can explain that in the description below. This next macro is just a way to cast Flame Strike at your cursor without having to click again. So just pressing the Flame Strike button will immediately cast Flame Strike, and you won't have to worry about clicking another button. This one here, extremely important, and I would suggest everybody were to get this. This is a way to immediately cast Dragon's Breath no matter what is occurring, no matter if you're casting Fireball, because Dragon's Breath is hard CC, so you can cancel stuff like the Loyal Beast's Enrage in the beginning of Halls of Atonement. So being able to cast that when you want it, at the moment you want it, is very, very important. There's another macro here that I find fairly useful. It's a polymorph that specifically will polymorph your focus target. Very useful in the second phase of the Huntsman Ultimorph fight, where Barghast will spawn shades. If your guild wants you to polymorph that shade and perhaps, a couple cleave or someone accidentally puts a dot on him, you could just set him as a focus, and whenever you cast Polymorph, it'll go onto him, and you could continue to focus on DPSing Barghast himself. And that just about sums it up for the guide. Any of the macros that I mentioned are in the description, as well as any changes to this information I'll try and put in the description below. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.